Well, now I know that was everything was out of sync with the blooming live feed on everything. Great. I've got to remember that on YouTube. It's about 49 minutes behind schedule. So that's a cold open.
I can barely hear a thing right now.
Yeah, there's a reason. Go. Oh no, he
We
can't see. Roll it. My microphone is working.
Yeah,
Okay, so it's just Owen's then.
at least. Oh, and you can't hear him at all right now?
can hear everybody is super quiet right now. I don't hear it's not loud at all.
Hang on. Switch to Isle of Dogs. Let's, let's change the region in case somehow that is affecting it. Maybe that's changed it. I don't know.
Yeah, I can hear things
Wow.
now.
I just needed to change region. That's the first time it's done that.
Yeah,
Anyway,
apparently the region was underwater.
yeah.
So, interesting story about tonight. I watched V for Vendetta a while back, as in when it first came out. And the last time I watched it was when it last came out. So this is the first time I've watched it since it came out. So very interesting.
If my memory's right, I believe when it first came out, you and I watched it together.
You are absolutely correct.
That's what I thought.
And I was there as well, and then somebody that worked there was like right behind us.
Yep.
And it was all like an accidental meeting.
Yeah. So full disclosure, got done with the podcast last night, and I had to be at work today at 8:30. So smart me, just like, okay, I'll set my alarm for 7:45. Get up at 8:15. No, I should have set my alarm for 7:15 and left the apartment at 7:45. So I get up and listen to the SpongeBob the musical soundtrack like I always do in the morning, getting ready for the day. And then the next thing you know, it's like, wait a minute, it's 8 o'clock. And I was like, wait a minute, I gotta be at work in 30 minutes. Uh-oh. So I got my clothes on. I did my walk ski like I always do, and I got in where it was like we have a 7 minute grace period at work. I know a lot of jobs have that, or maybe they don't. I don't know. Don't care. Anyway, part of the story. So basically, I have a 7 minute grace period at work. So if I clock in 8:37 in a row, I'm able to 100% be on time, even though technically speaking, I'm at 8:30. I'm 8:37. So I clocked in about 8:34 this morning, and I was completely fine. So yeah, that's your real cold open. Welcome to another edition, episode 6 of Popcast Movie Club. My name is Owen. Joining me as always, we have Ashley.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Indeed.
This will be the second time that the Dasher Hatfield mask has shown up on camera on this network. Probably longer, more than that, if you really want to look at it. Like, Brian, jump on this, because I'm sure we've done it a lot of times. I don't have my Dark Order mask. It's all the way over there. Well, maybe later. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Also joining us, welcome a little bit more of a permanent connection, at least for a bit, to the Popcast Movie Club and to the Popcast Network, and that would be Chris.
Hello?
And apparently he has solved his problem from last evening, if you were not watching the show, and realized that he does actually, in actuality, have a neck. And then, of course, we have AJ.
Yeah.
Yep. So, lots of stuff to talk about tonight. So we got done with the show last night, and it was like, and I told you right before we stopped talking last night, because we have a little bit of sometimes it's kind of like a little like chat session after the show's over, like not really like a housekeeping or anything. It's like just kind of shooting stuff for a minute or two before we all log off. And one of the things I said was, I'm just going to watch an hour of the movie, and then I'm just going to finish it today. Because you gifted me an extra hour, so I wanted to take that extra hour. And I did, but we'll get to that in a minute. So I was watching it, and I was about an hour and a half in. I was like, I might as well just finish this. So I did. Finished it, took my notes and everything, and utilized the time tonight to go grab real food instead of work food. So that was really nice. I just came back from Miller's Ale House, having a nice little mountain melt done my style, which is basically, for all intents and purposes, it's supposed to be scallions and cheese, bacon on top of chicken strips and French fries. But for me, it was chicken strip and French fries covered in bacon and the special seasoning salt, and it was doused with barbecue sauce. So yeah, that's what I had for dinner tonight, and it was phenomenal. So needless to say, I'm very happy for that extra time, so I can actually sit down and eat instead of having to just grab something at work and then
Did you just say phenomenal?
I said phenomenal, but that's okay. Close enough.
I heard V as well.
Yeah.
We're playing into it. Yes. Can I take off this Dash of Hatfield mask now?
Yes, you can. Okay. So lots to talk about tonight. I may disappear in a few minutes so I can grab me a drink because I'm thirsty. But yeah, Movie Club, episode 6, and we chose Ashley's pick, which is V for Vendetta tonight.
Oh wait, you still can't see me. There goes the joke.
See, here's the thing. He seems to forget that I have access to this ginormous television screen right behind you guys, that I'm actually watching this, and I see your Guy Fawkes mask underneath the...
Oh, god damn it.
That's your Hatfield mask.
So apparently by buying this, Warner Brothers made even more money. Which is why Alan Moore hates Warner Brothers.
I don't know. They would have paid for better blood effects. Anyway.
Wow, it's 2006.
That's what I'm saying. For 2006, that's fantastic.
Hold on. If you're going after V for Vendetta's blood effects, does that mean you also don't like the blood effects in Matthew Vaughn movies?
I get used to those. But this is kind of where it started, honestly. These type of blood effects. And it's not that I'm really going against them. It's just they're very comic book-like, and they fit exactly what a comic book aesthetic is supposed to be, and that's the reason why they're so awesome. Do they look cheesy? Yeah, but they're supposed to, because it's a comic book movie. It's a graphic novel. It makes perfect sense. It's not supposed to look real.
The reason why I say about that, though, is when Warner Brothers got the rights to this, it include all imaging from the comics as well.
That makes sense.
Every single mask, be it a $1 one that you get like from Alibaba, or like a really expensive one that was in the comic book set, which is like $20-$30, a certain proceeds of it have to go to whether it's Warner Brothers or New Line Cinema or whoever the producers are. So they got some money out of it.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I probably bought it. I bought it when it was £3 originally. This is just a second edition of one that I got from a charity shop for £1. That triggered me into going, yeah, maybe I need to put that in the movie club.
I realize a lot lately about movie club picks I have, and the fact that this is actually something that's very useful, because this is going to kind of force me to put up or shut up when it comes to watching movies that I would not normally give a chance to, or would have skipped out on, or just would have missed.
And like we were saying before, I think when Ashley first picked it, where it's like it's kind of a bummer just a little bit because it was so close, because this is the 6th movie club when it would have made so much more sense if it was the 5th one. But that, yeah, we're always a little askew anyway, so it works out.
Or you could have saved it for a movie club that aired on November 5th.
Yeah.
Well, considering how November the 5th this year is... Shit, it's a Monday. Damn it. Dream is over.
Wow. Who knows? I may even be in California when that movie club is going down. You don't know. I don't know either. I won't know that until way later in the rest of this year. So, yeah, obviously, before we get started, I do want to make mention of the greatest thing about this show is the live chat and our very loyal fan base that we're very happy to see in here every single week. We do this little shindig, whether it's a Q&A, whether it's a hangout, whether it's both, or whether it's movie club. We love having you guys and girls out there joining us to chat movies and various other things. And don't worry, the end of the month, next month, our Oscar predictions have begun. And the battle has begun. Right before I start Horror Nights is when we're going to do our first Oscar predictions. So it should be interesting. Which I'm not necessarily going to have to eat crow. I pretty much have understood what is going to come my way, whether I want it to or not. So I'm just going to state that you'll probably find out my true opinion somewhere during this season. You want to keep the pitchforks away from the network doors, please. So yeah, live chat. Gotta love it. Josie, welcome. Hey, Popcast team. I love this movie. It's like a Beauty and the Beast kind of story.
Yeah, including the captivity. I never thought about that till just now.
Picked up on that immediately, and I think that's the reason why I, now watching it years later when I'm much, much older, I will state that I see things a lot differently now as a film goer than I did back in 2006. I saw the world a whole lot differently than I did back in 2006 in a lot of ways. So yeah, this movie hit really hard at some points. Like AJ was talking about yesterday about the comment that came up in chat, the Q&A, about a scene lately that made you tear up. Yeah, 100%.
And what's interesting about that is, at first, it almost feels like it would be tonal whiplash for a scene like that and a sequence like that to be in a movie like this, until you realize just how much the entire movie does have an air of tragedy to it.
Oh, completely.
And it's like it's less tonal whiplash and just more emotional whiplash, but even that's kind of a reach.
I can see that. Josie, you're going to piggyback off something I'm going to say later in the show, which I might as well get with it right now. Obviously, I take notes for all these, and I have my notes in front of me. Josie goes, the domino scene, where Hugo Weaving tapes over the black and red dominoes to form the giant letter V. 22,000 dominoes. Took 4 professional domino assemblers 200 hours to settle it.
I'd say only 4?
Yeah.
Can we just appreciate that that's a practical effect?
Yeah, that's
It could have very easily not been.
That'd be so CGI'd now, with everything they have the capability of. But because it was that point where it's like it wouldn't be believable CGI, plus, you know, it's not that extravagant a budget to buy a shit ton of dominoes.
So Evie mentions to Gordon that the Eggie in the basket, the same breakfast that V made for her the first morning she spent at his place. However, what she fails to mention, or doesn't notice, is that Dietrich and V also greeted her in exactly the same way. Not with good morning, but bonjour, mademoiselle. Stan Getz is also playing in the background in both instances. Certain scenes did feature the original actor, James Purefoy, as V, but he was replaced by Hugo Weaving about 4 weeks in.
That's the intriguing thing. Like, I'm guessing it's just maybe Purefoy's voice didn't have the authority that it needed to. Maybe hard to tell because like you'd have thought he would have been a good fit, but something caused him to sort of leave the project and have Hugo step in.
Yeah, it might be that Nick Cage wrestler demographic again. Like when he was all locked into the wrestler, and then he went to the Ring of Honor show, and it's just like, nope, don't want to do that. And oh, hi, Mickey Rourke, you need your career rejuvenated. Let's do this. If you're wondering the weird facial feature I had a second ago, okay. Now this is completely off topic, and I think I brought it up before. One thing I like to do, and Chris knows this. I think AJ does too. I like to watch my friends play video games. I don't necessarily play. I like to watch them play video games. Howard, my roommate, another one of my good friends, basically used to play video games in the apartment. He will when he returns. And I would watch him play video games and snap while I was doing so because it made sense at the time. So I would watch like Fallout and Red Dead and things like that. Well, one thing I do play is a game on mobile called BitLife, which is really cool. You like basically create your life and everything and like all the people that are in your life and everything. It's kind of like The Sims, but not. And it's like really, really, really extravagant. Like, for example, like everything is like from beginning to end. You can die, you can do all sorts of things. It's great. Well, I just got a notification on my phone at that point, and it literally said that there is a wolf on my porch. So I was very curious that happened in the middle of the show. So I was like, I need to bring that up. So I was like, there's a wolf on my porch. Okay. Need to look into that. So yeah, that's a really random way to get to nothing. So that's what movie club's about sometimes.
Sounds like a scene out of The Village or something.
So the scenes in the abandoned London Underground station filmed at Aldwych, Piccadilly line station that closed in 1994. The branch still has tracks and electricity, meaning trains can still operate. Apparently, Portman looked forward to buzzing her hair, saying she wanted to do that for a long time. I think it's funny, Josie, because weirdly enough, when I think about Natalie Portman nowadays, the look that she had in the beginning of the movie was not what comes to my mind. I always think the short hair now. Weirdly enough, because that's what
it was all over the posters and everything.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Also, I'd like to make a complaint.
I'm not doing that right now. I'm on the clock.
No, just look. Those are the DVDs. What is the one with Natalie Portman, disc 1? Why is that the one with the movie and the other one as the extras? When if you look at it with the V, you'd have thought the one with the left side of the V would be first, not the other way round.
So it's like so instead of V, it's incomplete triangle.
Yes. Pretty much.
Incomplete triangle for Vendetta.
and the thing is, like, on the discs, there's no numbers like there is with some of them, like disc 1 or disc 2. It's just guess. I was like, literally, well, considering how the film is mainly about sort of V, I'm guessing that's the main disc? No. Like, scene selections. No, I want to look at the extras, damn it.
Josie has the first question of the night. So, do you consider the character of V to be human? Personally, I see him as a spiritual projected entity reflecting the surrounding characters, as Portman says at the end of the film.
Yeah, I guess because the ending does get very symbolic, and by the ending I mean like the last 10 seconds.
Yeah, dead people show up, unmasking.
I guess it could be kind of like, this is a weird comparison, but like a fire starter thing, to where he is human, but also kind of not, especially after so much experimentation.
Well, the only reason I could say that he is human, I feel, is that when they just straight up, like Gangland style, try to gun him down, and he basically no-sells it, it's my turn, and breaks out the knives. Well, one of the last things he does before he stops is he rips off the metal plate, throws it on the ground, and then he just collapses against the wall. So if he wasn't at least partially human, that never would have affected him at all.
He's the toxic
I think
Avenger.
too,
He's the toxic
because
Avenger to some extent.
That's
I
fair.
also believe too, and it's not just the DC Comics connection, but when you last night were calling it Batman with knives, Owen, I don't think you were that far off.
Nope.
Because it's
100%
definitely he's a product of his environment that appears to be supernatural, and he's really not. And like you said, when he pulls the plate out, that's when we realize, it's just the same as Batman. It's just armor and tricks.
Yep. He is definitely. There's a lot of Batman in V for Vendetta, without question. 100%. That's in my notes a lot, but it's nice to just get that out of the way right now because I can just check that one off the box.
Well, if anybody was going to bring it up, it was going to be me.
Of course. Water is wet, 'tis the season. Next thing you know, all of the models, the Old Bailey, the Clock Tower, the Houses of Parliament, built at a 1/10 scale. It took about 20 people 10 weeks to build.
Once again, these are much smaller groups of people than I thought would be working on this.
Crazy, isn't it? Josie brings all the fun trivia. Not the same kind that the three of us used to play incessantly back in the day.
I mean, with these small groups of people, we made allusion to this yesterday. With this small group of people, I'm surprised the credits not smaller than Space Jam's credits.
Space Jam's credits are like 20 minutes long. Yeah, do we know what the budget on this was? I don't think I looked that up.
Probably. That's your gimmick.
Budget was in and around 50 million.
That's it.
50,
what was that?
50 to 54 million.
50 million in 2006 is kind of small.
Mm-hmm.
Get the comments up for this one.
Because I think Pirates of the Caribbean 2 came out the same year. This is 06, right?
Yeah.
And I want to say its budget was over 200 million. Like, it was one of the most expensive movies made at that time. And V for Vendetta's budget's a quarter of that.
And this is Warner Brothers doing a comic book movie post Nolan.
Yeah, because
only just post Nolan. This would have been around the same time because it's technically its first screening was at the Numasathon or something they call it like that.
I'll get to that, Ashley, because I was getting ready to bring that up. The Butt-Numathon in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
So
in December of 2005, but didn't get its. I think it was at Berlin in February 06, and then it had the wide release in March.
See, I want to get to that because I want to think about this from that perspective. So the Butt-Numathon, which all of us used to worship at the altar of Harry Knowles and Ain't Cool News. Everybody did back in the day. And if you didn't, you basically hated him, so it was either one of the two. So there was no in between. You either liked him or hated him. But everybody knew who Harry Knowles was, and everybody knew what Ain't Cool News was. And the Butt-Numathon was something that a lot of people really wanted to attend.
Was Harry Knowles the one that wrote that really, really bizarre review for Blade 2?
Yes.
I don't have much respect going in his direction.
He looked like discount Peter Jackson. Yep. So think about what V for Vendetta actually premiered with at this Butt-Numathon. The Passion of the Christ, the Rings trilogy, Dreamgirls, Chicago, Black Snake Moan, Snatch, Magnolia, Knocked Up, Frozen, 300, Kingsman, and the 2005 remake of King Kong. That is something people had access to going to.
Kingsman a decade before it came out.
As Kingsman: The Secret Service.
Oh, so this wasn't an of the time event. Everything else seemed to be around that area though.
Right, and I have everything listed on here too. So it's like films that were shown for the Butt-Numathon include. So my guess is maybe they're maybe they're including different years potentially. But I have a list on here that shows all the movies that were shown at this, and this thing started in 1999 and it runs all the way until 2016.
Let
It
me
just
see
needed
if
to
I
bring
can
us
actually
forward.
get button them up on 2005's list.
I got it. Oh man, that's crazy. So Apocalypto, The Most Dangerous Game, The Pit and the Pendulum, King Kong, Busby Berkeley's Footlight Parade. If you know, you know. Sick Girl, Sympathy for the Lady Vengeance, The Professionals, District B13, Cigarette Burns, Hostel, but it was a clip only presented by Eli Roth, The Descent, Stunt Rock, Drum, The Last Stand, the X-Men movie, Mission Impossible 3, Der Fuhrer's Face, and V for Vendetta. These are all things that have been at Butt Numberthon. That's what they're mentioning.
But
So
that's the list from that year.
Yes. That is correct. But they have ran a lot of movies in the past. Crazy to look at some of these lists. The line about God playing dice with the universe comes from Albert Einstein's objections to quantum theory. He said, "Any rate, I am convinced that God does not play dice."
Yeah, he's more of a twister man.
Yeah, I like how there's a blending. There seems to be a blending together of when V's quoting somebody else and when he's just speaking normally. So I gotta ask a question here. This might be in the trivia, but I just took the liberty myself. Was I the only one that counted the V words in his first scene?
Oh, and that's why I had to look for somewhere online because I didn't want to pay too much for the comic book version. Alan Moore didn't write that. The Wachowskis did.
Yeah, it had to have been. I mean, no offense to him, but it was just like I just have a feeling that was them. So I didn't count when he says his name. I counted from voila to it's very good to meet you, and I counted 48.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know that I could think of 48 words that start with V.
Yeah, I didn't. You probably have to look up half the words over half the words he even says. There's, he really delved into the V section of the dictionary for that.
Hugo weaving a basic accent on the British Prime Minister Harold Wilson from 64 to 70 and 74 to 76.
He didn't say ergo vis-a-vis concurrently. I guess because of that MTV movies thing. And like, well, I find it interesting though. Like, it's not exactly a Harold Wilson. I guess it's the closest Prime Minister that could be associated with it. But Harold Wilson is more of a drawl, which you don't really get a drawl with Hugo's speaking.
So the Wachowskis were huge fans of the original comic. Wrote a draft in the 90s before The Matrix.
Okay, I do have to ask one more thing while we're on that very same scene, actually. So, I want to give props, but I also want to feel revolted.
Okay.
So the Wachowskis wrote the V monologue. Which one wrote, "We exercise our own judicial discretion, and you get to swallow it, and by sunup, if you're not the sorriest piece of ass in London, you'll definitely be the sorest." Because both of those lines are so fucked up. Those are the most... This is going to be a weird thing to say on the record. Those are the most poetic rapists maybe ever.
Wow.
I'm trying to remember if... I don't think it goes that strong in the comics, but the scene does appear where Evie's, potentially, going to be raped and is saved by...
Because with the V monologue, it was like, that has to be the Wachowskis. But then when it comes to that, it's like, that could be any of them.
Let me press on. Spencer Reed chimes in. I love this movie. Saw it back in the theaters the first time I saw Natalie Portman.
Really?
Very interesting.
I would think like 90% of people's introduction to Natalie Portman would have been episode 1, because that was mine.
Yeah, I was trying to think if there's anything between or anything before.
Is the Walmart baby movie before episode 1?
I think it's the same year. I think they're both 99.
Oh.
I'm looking at the list right now.
Baby movie.
That's what it is, right?
That movie is astonishingly terrible. I almost want to do it as a movie club just to really establish how astonishingly terrible that movie is.
So, it's honestly the answer is Leon.
Oh shit! I didn't even think of Leon.
I was trying to think of the order of events I saw them, because like I would have been seeing movies as they came out by then, so I would have seen Closer before V For Vendetta and stuff like that. Maybe like Beautiful Girls or something. Leon kind of came. What's that?
Mars Attacks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mars Attacks was probably before episode 1 for us.
Yeah.
Apparently.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I think Leon kind of came into my life a little late. I may have seen V For Vendetta first.
That makes sense. When did you see Heat, AJ? For the first time?
Like 8th grade? What year would that have been? That would have been before V For Vendetta. That would have been like 2004-ish.
Like 11 years difference between what time the movie came out. That's not that bad.
I love that I had an immediate answer to that. You always remember the first time you see Heat.
If you never would introduce me to that movie, like had me sit down and watch it, I honestly think that it'd probably be a movie club pick. But there's no reason to go there now because I've already been there. Brian says that was an awesome movie pick, Ashley. This was amazing and almost a masterpiece for me if it didn't have any minor issues. Portman, the only cast member who's not British.
Whoa. Hugo Weaving?
Isn't Hugo Weaving Australian?
That's what I think, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Every time, we always like, oh, they're not British. Oh, no.
Oh, no. British, but born in Nigeria, but he's lived in Australia for the entirety of his career. I would not have known that. Then again, I wouldn't have known that Natalie Portman was Israeli-born American.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I guess we'll let Ashley be the judge of this.
Oh.
Because I've never really been that great with it, but I think mostly positive. But how is Portman's accent?
It wavers a little bit, but obviously she knew how to do a sort of like English accent anyway, because she dabbled with it for the Star Wars stuff before all this. Because remember, Keira Knightley was actually the Padme first, and then it had to be Portman as the big reveal. So
I knew Portman with a British accent sounded familiar outside of this movie, and I couldn't place it. Of course.
All right, so more commentary from the chat. I'm gonna try to stay on top of it as much as I can tonight. Josie says, "Who would win more Twitch and social media followers, V or the Riddler?"
V.
I would say V, because his seems to. I think the Riddler's plan was just sort of Gotham related, whereas V's is like
it's global.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason why Anonymous use it. I think. Because it's just the symbolism from the comic, but was conveyed more so, obviously, because the movie's much more accessible to a lot of people. And that, you know, people should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
It's basically kind of saying, I love Paul Dano's Riddler, and I always will. But the best way to describe it for me is Paul Dano may subscribe to the Anarchist Cookbook, but V wrote it.
That's accurate.
I think that's a fair assessment. Yeah.
Also, to be fair as well, we know that the Riddler is Edward Nygma. We never really find out who V is.
Nope.
He was somebody in that cell, and that was his code name, because he was in cell 5.
See, with completely forgetting the ending of the movie, when Portman's rattling off who V is, and I was like writing down the notes, I was like, he's what? He's what? He's everything. V is everyone. V is Soylent Green. V is people. So,
I mean, that goes in the column tick mark technicality, but yeah.
So I'm like, well, I thought I figured it out. I was like, this is Gigi. This is 100% who it's supposed to be. Nope.
There's a thing that the Always Sunny podcast does where the only thing in the description for each video is just a quote from the podcast.
That's
that
cool.
one. If we did that, I'd want the quote to be via Soylent Green.
For as much as people give me flack for not being funny, I feel like I come off with some pretty good lines every once in a while that I don't take from people. I do that too. But at the end of the day, there's still some things I can come up with every once in a while. See, the laundry machine knows.
Well, speaking of stuff like Soylent Green and like these classic sci-fi stories with this underlying thing going on, since it's like the most obvious thing ever, should we go ahead and mention like a certain other sci-fi story that's going to come up?
Before we go into anything, I want to get through chat, because if I don't get through chat now, we're going to get bogged down. We're going to miss everything. So I want to get through chat.
It's clearly a big ironic elephant in the room that John Hurt plays the villain in that. and how extremely on purpose that is.
Yeah, of course. And it's like, there's so many great things about that character. First off, he's like Hitler in Bastards.
Or Hitler in real life.
I just wanted to make the movie connection. Yeah, he's basically Hitler in this.
He suffers a similar fate to the Bastards Hitler, we'll say.
Josie says, who'd win in a three-way fight? Phoenix's Joker, Dano's Riddler, or V?
V?
It's got to be V.
He's prepared for it.
The other two are extremely inexperienced.
Yeah.
I actually don't think Dano would fight. I really don't.
What would he do?
He would hide. He would do the same thing I do when I play laser tag. I'd hide behind the Joker, and then the Joker gets taken out, and I just run away. Who would win in a fight, Agent Smith or V?
I think V would finally lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How would you design a V for Vendetta ride?
I mean, surely there'd be fireworks involved.
I'd say probably maybe like a slow moving dark ride, or maybe like the build up would be like walking through, and then you would board the ride vehicle, and then I would say maybe honestly, I'm a coaster guy. This has got to be a coaster.
I'd take the Star Wars hotel and just basically turn it into sort of like the Imperial thing. That's basically what the regime sort of is from what you see.
It's kind of like Alton Towers has a ride that's very infamous called the Smiler, and that queue kind of reminds me of what I would imagine a V for Vendetta attraction to look like, at least in queue form. You're seeing a bunch of Guy Fawkes masks everywhere, and a bunch of like diatribes written on walls, and we see things like we saw in the movie and things from the comic book, and they can pull a lot from both. They'd be entertaining. I'd enjoy it. Not coming to any parks around here. I mean, Warner Brothers does have a park in Australia that they could possibly take from, but I doubt it. Be cool though. Sinead O'Connor, take a shot. That's the only name I know, which is I see Sinead. Sorry, Josie. Fun fact, Sinead Cusack, I should know that last name, who played Delia in this movie, is married to Jeremy Irons.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she's the doctor, isn't she?
Yeah.
The one where he's in her room like he's in a fucking horror movie, but then it ends up being one of the most tender scenes of the movie.
Yeah, she's the doctor that like gets the honorable death. Because she's the one that sort of she wasn't doing it for political or financial gain. She was just doing it because she was the researcher.
And then I just love the way she succumbs to that acceptance, like as it goes on. So it reminds, well, I won't say it because that's a spoiler for another movie, but it reminds me of another thing too that's very classic in its own right.
Josie brings up Portman and her husband celebrating 10 years of marriage this year. Imagine if they made a V for Vendetta Barbie doll of Natalie Portman's character. I think now that'd be something they could go with, but back then, maybe not.
Can you shave its head? That'd be fun.
I was gonna say, if you go back to sort of like the stereotypical 50s, 60s, and 70s one, I'm pretty sure there's one dressed up like the outfit that she does when she meets the priest. Already, there's already a Barbie out there that's like that.
Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about that in several months. We'll get that Oscar one way or another. So V for Vendetta was released the same weekend as Thank You for Smoking and She's the Man. The week was Disney's remake on the Shaggy Dog, and Spike Lee's Inside Man was the week after. Brian, I remember this because I was working at Regal at this time. So was someone else on this show right now.
Our Regal was a very happening place in that time period.
Yes. One film director, James McTeague, says he cites as influence is the Battle of Algiers.
Which is interesting because that's like a war film with a group of rebels, not like one person like trying to bring an army in.
It's also interesting because my memory of it could be vague, but what little memory I have of the Battle of Algiers, that movie kind of feels like a bit of a documentary as far as its aesthetic goes.
Yeah, certainly in that style, you know. It was an accurate sort of depiction of like how guerrilla warfare would be, but I don't know whether you don't get that much guerrilla warfare in this, to be fair. It's really more about the alternative facts and everything, and the false spin that the government tries to put on to sort of quell it. You don't really get much touching on it. They're that scared by V's decree saying, you know, join me 1 year for tonight, that's what takes precedent over anything.
And kind of taking that in a more literal sense, I've also always noticed that despite the kind of movie this is genre-wise and the way it was like advertised and built up, there's not a lot of action in it. It's mostly bookended by action, and that's about it. Everything else is politics of it.
I watched mainly just because I'm intrigued, because I vaguely remember seeing it at the cinemas back in the day, even though I never saw it in the cinema first time round. Having seen it now, that trailer gives away a lot of the stuff that happens at the end. Like,
I don't really know
are you just going to show the shooting scene at the end? And him going, my turn, and then swinging the knives? You don't see much else, thankfully, but, like, you see a lot.
Does anybody else, speaking of the action at the beginning, does anybody else really love the sort of symbolic look where it's the first time we see V fighting? He's in a dark alleyway when he's killing the rapist, and then the very next action scene is a really bright white hallway, like he's bringing things into the light, literally. That's the way I always took that, and I found it fun.
That's fair.
Again, part of me sees that and it's just like, oh god, it's that corridor scene from The Matrix. Are they trying to do a better thing than that?
While I'm talking about stuff being symbolic like that, and we've talked about like, the last 10 seconds of the movie and stuff like that, just to be clear to everyone watching, none of us are saying that V for Vendetta is a subtle movie, right? Like its appeal is how completely unsubtle it is.
I mean, there's some subtle touches, but there's some subtle touches, but not like most of the sort of big plays are sort of like, here's a giant oar, and here's the giant boat, and we're swinging it like this isn't subtle.
Yeah, because when it gets to the scene when after she realizes that her captivity has been a work essentially, and he takes her out into the rain, and it cuts back and forth between him being rebirthed in fire and then her in the rain, and my thought was, wow, that's really on the nose. But then I was like, oh wait a minute, this movie is embracing on the nose.
But
I
that's
mean,
probably the way Alan Moore wrote it 40 years ago. Anyway.
I mean, the shortest way between 2 points is a straight line. So, I mean, if you're going to tell the message, I mean, might as well just come out and say it.
Yeah.
There's no need to dick around or anything.
Yeah, because I've been trying to figure out how we're going to dance around the fact, because when you bring up, I think we even mentioned this when Ashley first announced it, was you bring up V for Vendetta, almost everybody's going to say, oh, that movie is now more relevant than ever.
Yeah.
And it's like, as it goes on, people will say that like even more so.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly.
And the thing about that is, I don't feel like we have to get too political by saying that, because there's just so many. You can just say that, and we could be talking about pretty much anything political.
Yeah.
It'll just fit.
I feel it seeped into Western politics more than arguably when it would have been sort of like the dictatorships and the sort of like stranglehold that the Soviet Union would have, or some of the South American countries, or sort of most of anything, and well, look, the president of China not being happy about being compared to Winnie the Pooh, sort of thing. So none of that's allowed. The Filipino president sort of going against his sort of power and whatever, it's just so happens it's sort of cropping into British and American politics over arguably since the film came out, which is the irony. It's like, did it make people aware? They're like, hey, we're being sold to.
It's like you could say the same thing about Star Wars, but Star Wars, long time ago, galaxy far, far away, builds up that this is something that happened that was fantastical, and then V for Vendetta is just like, no, this could happen today.
They don't even specify the time frame, do they? It just, I think they say like near future.
The comic was supposed to be a near future from what happened under Thatcher's government with the Conservatives, because he's very sort of anti-conservative in terms of his writing, and obviously the filmmakers did want to sort of set it present day, rather than make it too period, just so I guess it would have more resonance, and I guess it'd be easier. Then again, you still have sort of like throwback bits like here's an ancient Quran, and here's a jukebox with mainly songs from sort of 60s and 70s sort of thing. Although I think we only, on the soundtrack CD, I think there's only 3 tracks, and 2 of them are sort of like modern versions of the old tracks anyway.
I think it's also interesting too that with V you have a hero like if you take the old classic heroes like the ones that Schwarzenegger played or Stallone, V is somebody that is very, very deadly, but very, very into the arts, which is something you do not see.
He's
You
Errol
don't
Flynn.
really equate those two things. Huh?
V is Errol Flynn with all intents and purposes. The only difference is he doesn't have a saber, he has a knife.
Yeah.
Apart from in that scene when he's attacking the suit of armor. That is very, Adventures of Robin Hood. I don't want to say Count of Monte Cristo because that's what's referenced, but yeah, it's very much sort of like Basil Rathbone and Errol Flynn in that sort of like finale to Adventures of Robin Hood.
I was gonna say something we were on the political angle, but I've been really stretching my mind trying to figure out how to say it. How to say it safely. Because we were talking about it was when I was talking about how you could say that V for Vendetta is relevant and then plug that into any political talking point, more or less.
Right.
And so in a sense, people have also really taken V as this face that uncovers conspiracy theories. And so this is where I'm trying to tread lightly.
Oh boy.
There's definitely like there's like stuff that's in quotes conspiracy theories, particularly in politics, that feel like open secrets at this point. And it's like people say like, this is a cover. And, like there was a point in time where anybody that said, "Oh, it's a cover up," was just considered a conspiracy theorist. But then that's kind of come more to light. But the reason I want to be careful about that is because while that is the case, where so much stuff seems to become less and less of a conspiracy, we're also in kind of a golden age of the dumbest fucking shit imaginable is becoming conspiracy theories. And so so it's like when I say, oh, V stands up for that kind of thing, I could be saying something that's like, wide open that almost everybody could agree is something that's being covered up or something that is corrupt. And then other people might take it as I don't even have an example.
I got suckered in today to like supposedly this lost, forgotten Simpsons character that's actually been in every episode, but like it's supposed to be like the Mandela effect, that like you never knew that they existed, but people are trying to make it a meme because they're that unhappy with the quality of current Simpsons that they're trying to go. They wrote this character out called like Gassy Simpson or Glizzy Simpson. It's like I was suckered in because I was like, wait, is that because like somebody went too far because they were like, so here's like the DVD set, but if you press right 10 times, Krusty's head lights up, and then you get the true menus with the app. Like, I got suckered in and I fell for it because then the next video I saw it was like, why is this meme actually a fake thing? Like, it's fake.
Because I feel like the difference that I was trying to find here was that there's some supposed conspiracy theories that make too much sense and have too many pieces that fit together. And then there's other things like that where it's like some people don't really need those pieces or even need those pieces to make sense. They just want to fall into any conspiracy because it's kind of like they want to feel like basically people just want to feel like they're in a movie sometimes. So they go full Jim Carrey in the number 23 over fucking anything. And it's like that's not the shit that I want to back up, and that's just like people will look at a movie like V for Vendetta and say this proves whatever crazy shit I'm thinking of that is just out of somebody's ass.
I'll just say on my end, I'm willing to bet that there's a significant amount of people that cheered V in 2006 and would boo V today.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm glad you found a way to word that because I don't know if I could have found the word.
And I've seen that same argument with Star Wars. There's people that cheered for the rebels in the 70s that would root for the Empire today.
Oh, you mean like the time where you're watching The Breakfast Club, and you're like, yeah, he didn't really have such a bad idea after all. Maybe they are kind of juvenile. As you get older, you kind of root for the people that you absolutely hated when you were younger. Not always.
I still remember that meme I saw a few months back of like all the Jedi kids, or kids dressed as Jedis, allowed to sort of go into sort of a fake fight with Vader, and the one kid just kneels like, "I'm yours, Vader." And then they just like quickly hurry the kid on, like, "No, that's what you shouldn't be doing." And like, totally forgetting the fact that for one point there was a good person inside Anakin.
I remember as a kid watching Batman '89, and there were times that I was disappointed that the Joker died, because I was like, he was fun and brought change to the world, and Batman was mean for restoring it all back to order. Like, it's just funny how our minds change as we get older.
Sure.
Batman just wanted to make everything black. At least there was some color with Joker.
We're also in a place where you could say, without specifying, this side is bad because of this, and this side is good because of this, and both sides will think you're talking about them being the positive one. But it's
I think it's sad too as you get older. This is my last Batman reference of the video. I'm going to try. But I think it breaks your heart too as a kid when you get older and you realize that there's not really any Bruce Waynes in the world, but the world is full of Lex Luthors.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to do something positive now.
we literally gave that a moment.
We're going to make more references.
Josie says Natalie Portman had the same dialect coach as Gwyneth Paltrow.
There we go. That's positive. Let's roll with that.
Considering how good a job Gwyneth Paltrow did with sliding doors, what went wrong in the 6 years between? I appreciate what she was trying to do. Obviously, he was trying to do it sort of a Cockney sort of London style, but it wavers to some extent more than I've seen with.
It wasn't going to be anytime soon, but we can actually go into this before too long, because I actually have sliding doors on my list of potential movie club ideas.
Oh, thanks.
And Ashley, I want to ask you from your perspective, when somebody does an accent like that and fails, is it more insulting than if they would have just not done the accent at all?
Depending on the character, yes. If it's sort of like, I appreciate Margot Robbie doing the sort of college try when she tried to do Elizabeth for Mary Queen of Scots. But when there's somebody that like does sort of a bad job, if it's a bad job and they're sort of a supporting part, maybe not so much. But when it's sort of like, I don't understand why Natalie Portman is listed more. I guess because you see more of it, sort of her view rather than V's. But yeah, I feel that as long as you give it the college try and you're close enough, the British respect will be like, it's reasonably there. We'll let it pass. If it ever goes sort of like horribly wrong, and it's like, why is that going into sort of like Christopher Walken's Irish in Wild Mountain Thyme?
Yeah.
Where it goes like, okay, so that's Scots Irish, that's Irish, there's English Irish, there's Northern Irish, there's American Irish, there's Atlantean Irish. It goes places, and that's where it's sort of distracting. I think with Natalie Portman, because people had seen most of the stuff she would have been in would have been sort of semi-English because of Star Wars. Because I don't think many people would have seen, I She did play Closer American, didn't she? I'm trying to remember.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was definitely an American accent Closer for sure.
I couldn't remember because, like, you know, I had Clive Owen in that, who was playing British, and then, like, next film he was in, no, he's playing American.
Mm-hmm.
Switch on over the place. Yeah, that's where I think, you know, it does the good touch, really. But then again, with, like, I mean, the rest of the cast does feel I was like watching television from around the same time, because a lot of them were sort of like, I don't want to say character actors, but they hadn't really had huge mainstream stuff. Obviously, Stephen Ray had his sort of Crying Game and everything, that sort of stuff, so he was relatively well known. Hurt to some extent, but most people wouldn't have known Tim Pigott-Smith or Rupert Graves or Roger Allam as, like, oh, Prothero was just brilliant. Because Allam just plays those snooty posh types so very well. And then the one that caught me off guard, wait, this was Imogen Poots a year before 28 Weeks Later.
Yeah.
Which I think this was probably one of her first things in terms of movie stuff.
It's got to be early.
She might have done some TV appearances in, like, dramas, but I'm just having a quick check if I can. No, V For Vendetta was her first, and 28 Weeks Later was 2 years before, technically, because obviously V For Vendetta was 2005 and 28 Weeks Later was 2007.
Yeah, because when they say 2005, they count V For Vendetta's festival runs, and then it came out here March 2006.
Mm-hmm.
Like this time gives me time to just kind of rest.
And then random Eddie Marsan sighting as well. It's like, yes, that's why this film's good. Eddie Marsan, he's normally not in rubbish. And if he is, he's the best bit of the rubbish.
While we're on Imogen Poots, I did want to go into the Valerie stuff. Was there anything we needed to do before that, or?
I'm trying to finish chat.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Portman's casting could be an issue for me, says Brian. Her accent did remind me of someone I've heard online, but I don't know whom. I can't describe it. And that acquired kiss.
Yeah, that kiss, like, does seem weird as to, like, how V would be affected by it when he actually can't feel it, because it's just like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then again, okay, we have V as a symbol, right?
Yeah.
He's all of us. He's my mother. He's my father, etc. There is the scene where at the end of Valerie's note, she says, "I don't know you, but whoever you are, I love you."
Right.
Something like that, we can say, is the kiss with V.
That would make sense.
Expressing love to just everybody that's been wounded or is overpowered in some way.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that probably fits.
Brian talking about mentioning Barbie. More images for Greta's Barbie movie has been released. I saw this. It came across my Twitter feed, and I've never seen more pink and roller skates come across one Twitter feed my entire life than today.
I've seen a lot of people saying that Ryan Gosling looks like he's cosplaying as Orange Cassidy.
Thank you.
Yes.
You guys can vouch for me because I said this on a show, but Chris wasn't on recently. I said that's exactly what he looks like. He looks like Orange Cassidy. Cassidy with more Paul Gosselaar's tips from Zach Morris. Speaking of release, on a side note, real quick, the Wicked Witch appearance on Sesame Street was finally found and released 2 weekends ago.
Lost media. Gotta love that sort of stuff. Then, of course, you get the lost media that gets discovered, then gets lost again, and then gets rediscovered by a completely different me.
Oh yeah, great action, but not the last when they had to put a Matrix moment, says Brian. Josie says the Riddler from Batman could be classified as a conspiracy theorist. Yeah, for sure. And last but not least, at least for the time being, Josie says if V for Vendetta was made today, how do you think the reactions would be? Same, similar, completely different?
I think it would be considered a lot more divisive today.
Yeah.
And it would be like my biggest paranoia is that this movie gets embraced in the wrong ways in certain places, like in certain ways. But once again, like I said, if I'm vague about that, anybody on any side could say, yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to who you think John Hurt is.
Yeah.
Is he actually Winston in disguise? I do like that. You were alluding to it earlier, AJ. The symbolism of the guy on a giant screen is actually the other end of 1984.
Yeah. I was wondering when we were just going to say 1984's name.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so.
I would say 1984 has undergone the same treatment too, where it's become divisive because of current climates.
Yeah, because when we were reaching a certain point, it was like, because we get under a certain administration, and everybody says, "Oh my God, this is like 1984," and then COVID protocols happen, and then the other people are saying, "Oh, it's like 1984," and it's just whatever one equates it to.
And you could really do that with any issue, not just COVID, any issue.
Nobody can compare it to 1605 because we have cell phones.
I mean, I kind of get.
Hold on.
What's happening?
Not everybody on this panel has a cell phone. And it is not their fault.
What is it? I'm really uncomfortable. What's happening?
Not everyone has a cell phone, and we'll all look at you.
What about it?
You don't have one.
What's that mean?
Ashley said everyone has a cell phone.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
You're the exception that proves the rule.
Yeah.
I might have that phrasing wrong.
But
yeah, because nobody wanted vaccinated because they said, "Oh, there's an evil chip that tracks you." Meanwhile, I'm going to hold on to my phone.
So I get to turn into Simon Phoenix from Demolition Man? Sign me up.
If that guy's watching, by the way, again, hello.
Oh, yeah.
the man that was a But
fantastic.
I was gonna ask what was I saying, but maybe I should just be done with wherever that was going. Oh, I do love talking about like the way things are like blacklisted and the way people are punished. Something that when you talk about the tonal shifts or what would seem like tonal shifts in another movie, I love the fact that we have a scene in this movie that is extremely silly, all the way down to Benny Hill music.
Dang it! You took my line away.
And then that scene, as silly as it is the cause of the darkest consequences, and the way it balances that out in this really disturbing way, and to the fact that she has to relive her childhood trauma seeing Stephen Fry killed.
Yeah.
Although I do
like the fact that
John Hurt like trying to do the comedy stuff as well, because I'm guessing some of that was him. Just they put sort of heavy makeup on to make it not look like him.
Yeah.
And make him change his voice as well, so he doesn't sound exactly like his character, but just slightly off. It would be sort of like, here's somebody we dressed up to do the comedy skit.
Yeah, because I think he's in the credits twice as both his character and fake version of that character.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw this out there. The fake version of his character should have been Hugh Laurie. Reunite Fry and Laurie.
Oh,
Okay.
I don't want to bury the lead here. We're talking about the Benny Hill music. V as Bugs Bunny works even better too.
Yeah.
You're like eliminating all of my little note skis here with this conversation, so that's helping.
I was gonna say, we the three of us have been going a bit. Do you want to run down some of your notes? Or?
Oh, it's bot world order time.
So the only note of mine that I kind of skipped here was British Tucker Carlson calling the USA the ulcered sphincter of Ass Erica. It's just funny.
Did you hear what I said? Like, he repeats it as well. Like,
Okay,
to get
I don't have much. I don't have money notes. I get because most of it's been taken up. I said cool fire opening. Honestly, the opening of V for Vendetta kind of reminded me of like a Three Musketeers style.
It was
I had that same
channeling
thought
that
too.
sort of thing.
And we bring up the Errol Flynn connection later in the actual movie. Everybody knows the line, the remember the 5th of November. I mean, it's something that it's been parodied, it's been used for eons, and it's still iconic to this day.
Great
Even
thing
the guy
is,
well,
before that film, everyone in the UK was like, "That's about Guy Fawkes and the gunpowder plot." Now that's the thing from V for Vendetta. Guy Fawkes is forgotten about.
you just gave me a movie club idea with this. Oh, something we haven't discussed on this channel before, so I'm excited about it.
Ah,
Are you sure?
Porky's.
Yes, 100%. It's on my list. I'll make a list sometime. The 1812 take a shot. The 1812 overture means music equals chaos. I like that. Another thing that the Riddler took from in the Batman, music equals chaos.
That did get me the first time when it's like, yeah, let's blow up the Liberty statue that's on top of the Old Bailey. Like, what?
I was gonna say, is V for Vendetta like the British equivalent of Independence Day? Just watching the monuments explode. I know it's a weird comparison. It's just the first thing that came to mind.
It's the only thing I can think of that's actually sort of like, not to try and go too political, considering certain things that have happened in the past 4 days, but I don't think any American film would try and blow up the Supreme Court. But V for Vendetta, Old Bailey, yeah, get rid of it. Apparently.
I do agree that if it was an American building, that would play very differently.
Yeah.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah, and Toby Keith would write a song about it. Anyway.
I remember I'm not going to drop any names, but I remember I went to watch the first Transformers movie with someone. And the movie's not that great, but his reason for the whole movie not being great is because they destroyed an army base at the beginning.
I feel like Owen's smiling because he knows who it is.
I think Owen probably does know who it is.
Last American
a very good guy, by the way.
Yes.
Just, yeah.
Yes, but not something you want to base your opinion of a movie around.
So, here's
but
the
I
thing.
mean, I can't really talk, though, because I'm still not sure how I feel about No Time to Die because of what happened.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I probably should absolutely despise Monsters versus Aliens, but I don't.
Yeah. But going back to the present movie, we were talking about the time period that it came out, and you said how there wasn't really a lot of action in it. Like, it had kind of beginning and the middle. You had the fight at the TV station. That's about it.
Right.
But I think that was a big risk to take for something that was marketed as a superhero movie, coming out when X-Men 3 was out, Batman Begins had been out, Superman Returns was on its way out.
And what's especially great about that is that is it being a ballsy move, is that I don't remember anybody criticizing it for that.
No.
I remember being surprised it had like limited action. I was also 15.
Mhm.
Accurate.
Mhm. And you had the Spider-Man series we were past Spider-Man 2 at that point. So I mean, it was, if you were going to market as a superhero, there were a lot of things that people expected. But when you watch it, you realize V's not a superhero at all.
Yeah.
Like that's not the point.
Playing into the Batman thing
Yeah,
again.
it's not about. I mean, it's about restoring order, but it's not.
So I'm indifferent about the scene with Evie where she almost has an altercation and V kind of saves the day. She's I don't know how to put this. She looks very attractive, but that's the point.
Because I went on my whole Miss Honey thing yesterday. I wasn't gonna go into this, but I will say, as gorgeous as Natalie Portman is, I always thought the first half of V for Vendetta is, I think, when she looked her best in a movie. Anyway,
I love the makeup.
Oh, I gotta think about that.
No, I agree 100%. I said V is very Shakespearean. That's the vibe.
Did you write that before he literally quotes Macbeth?
Yes, I did actually.
Yeah.
It goes right in line with what you're saying, though, especially with him being a tragic hero, because that was like Shakespeare's bread and butter.
So we talked about V showing up in the shadows, and then like you see him, and then he's not there, and then you see him again. Again, more Batman parallels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's somewhere between a superhero and a horror movie character.
Yeah, he's like if Bruce finally went off the rails and said, "Fuck this world, I'm gonna make it in my own image."
I think Bobby.
People say that's what Affleck's almost was.
To be fair, if we're going to pick a Batman in history that's going to be the first one to fall off the rails, Bobby P's Batman's probably going to be it. So,
oh, he's borderline there.
Exactly.
I think Pattinson's Batman is the one that gives the most credence to the argument that, you know, we cheer Bruce Wayne, we love Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is a fucking psychopath. Like, I love him. He's my favorite fictional character of all time, but he is psychotic.
I just love hearing you say Bruce Wayne is a psychopath. I'm just looking at this Lego Batman figure that you have here.
I mean, Lego Batman is kind of a psychopath. He's a narcissist. Like,
I just like looking at the fact in the background. Usually with Ashley, I'm trying to figure out what gimmick is going to fall on him when he's trying to doing the show, which it never happens, because I've never seen it happen. This time, I'm just trying to figure out how many editions of Seen It you truly have.
You were talking about Lego Batman. What I was thinking of is I've been watching the 60s series on YouTube, so I think of Bruce giving Robin a speech about how it's important to buckle his seatbelt. I'm like, fucking psycho. Like,
sadly, it wouldn't be Batman; it'd be Batgirl.
Yeah.
They may be drinkers, Robin, but they're still human beings.
Yes.
And of course, some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
I mean,
now I want to see V in that kind of version of a V for Vendetta. Like when he's like, Evie, we must respect everyone.
So Batman didn't go meet the Green Hornet. Batman met V instead.
Yes.
Yes. Make this happen.
Now the question is, who would play V in this hypothetical 60s version? Who would play V to meet Adam West's Batman?
Somebody that wanted to be a villain on the show that wasn't able to because of situations beyond their control.
I have one, kinda. Because they were a serious actor at this time, but could you imagine like Adam West Batman meeting like Sean Connery's V?
I like that.
Considering his comedic touches toward the end of the 60s, Peter O'Toole.
More.
Yeah, Roger could have been, because of his Saint stuff and Persuaders stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Roger Moore as V.
This whole conversation is making me depressed that this doesn't exist.
Hey, you invited me to movie club, so I'm sorry
This
that made
happens-
you sad.
This happens with you all the time. We come up with these hypothetical scenarios, and it's like, man, why can't we live in that world?
We've talked about like Batman if Batman was like it was like role swapped, and we talked about Batman if it was nothing but comedians and things like that. We used to do that stuff all the time, sitting around Buffalo Wild Wings. Just I play trivia and we just talk about what if. We had what if or what if was cool. So we talk about, and I talked about it during Sleuth, and I'll say it again. I said the moment that I kind of snapped out of my sleepy haze was when the ladder bump happened. I realized immediately we were in the world of a comic book because Evie took a nice little bump ski and did not even sell it one bit. So I do want to say that I feel the dance scene is very calming. It feels like it's calming. It's like it's what Josie brought up at the beginning of the show about it being like Beauty and the Beast. That's the first vibe I got from that. I said, Mr. Creedy kills Chancellor, asks for V to remove the mask. He declines. V is not to be effed with. And of course, it wouldn't be me if I didn't literally drop the fact, you and your knives and your fancy karate gimmicks. I'm like, that was literally uttered 100% fancy karate gimmicks. I'm like, you can't mean I'm not going to bring that up. Come on.
The one thing I do like in terms of the torture scene, mainly, I'm guessing I can talk about that because you passed it in your notes, Owen.
I did because we're going to talk about it.
The first bit when I'm trying to, it's some person's voice. The annoying bit is in the trailer. It's clear. I mean, and you can tell the outline. It's Tim Pigott-Smith's outline, but it's not his voice. But it is his voice in the trailer, where you'd have thought it would make sense. And then for the other outlines that you see for the rest of it, you can clearly tell it's Agent Smith. It's just Hugo not having to deal with the makeup, and then obviously, I think the only other time we see him is the what was the name that he gave himself? Oh, great! It doesn't actually say.
Are you talking about you're basically talking about the Deep Throat scene?
Yeah. The government source.
To be fair,
going into action.
So when he was talking, I thought that was basically him outing himself out as V.
Yeah, it seems like we're supposed to know, but when I watched it back, I was like, I think they were kind of playing that up as a reveal. Unless we just know. It's like that's like the Kane discussion with Sleuth. Maybe we just know Hugo Weaving too well.
That's probably it. Yeah, that's all my notes. Josie asked, "Did you ever see Count of Monte Cristo?"
The one that's in the movie.
Either of them is what she said.
I've seen that one and the. Is it Caviezel?
Thank you. I was sitting here thinking, I was like, I think it's Caviezel, and then you confirmed it.
I've seen Guy Pearce?
Yeah, I think so.
I've seen both of those, but my memory of them is practically gone. I would love it, especially rewatching this. It makes me want to go back to them.
I'm trying to think of the. They must have done. Yeah, there was a British one, but like only in the 60s. I've seen clips from them, and I guess the only other one I remember vaguely is because I think it got released like over here as sort of like a. I think it was like a 4K, 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 4K sort of like Salem's Lot, sort of. Was it Salem's Lot? What's the one that was like a two-part series that was Stephen King?
Yeah, that's Salem's Lot.
Yeah, that sort of thing. But I think it was Gerard Depardieu did one like in the late 90s. I vaguely remember seeing clips of that. I haven't seen the things in full. Mainly because obviously most of Dumas' stuff will be known for Three Musketeers rather than anything, and obviously there's been God knows how many Count of Monte Cristo. I mean, just sort of like Western releases, not including all the sort of very loose ones like I'm seeing. There's a Sri Lankan one that's basically an adaptation of it. There's a Mexican telenovela, which is like Zorro.
Yeah.
I got a lot of Zorro in this movie too.
Goodbye, Mr. Black, which is South Korean. There's a lot of international ones as well, and of course the book version's referenced in Shawshank, isn't it? From what I remember from the library. Which makes sense because of the subject matter and everything. Getting away from sort of a tyrannied society or whatever, which is basically the prison. I still love the fact that that's an in joke that no child will get in Lego City Undercover.
So Brian says, do you think Hugo Weaving should have got nominated for Best Supporting Actor, or at least been a contender? He is phenomenal.
I don't know that I would personally, but I do want to acknowledge how impressive it is that he can do. Because are we assuming most of it is him physically as well?
I think.
Like it's not just voice work.
Did you see the credits? that was the best bit. Like his stunt in Chad Zaleski, stunt director David Leitch, and it's like, it's John Wick. John Wick is V. Deadpool is V. Literally with the scarred face and everything, and just there naked, like. Aah!
No! Don't make like V, Ashley.
Yes.
But
he looked like a baked bean gone wrong.
But when so like when V's walking around like making breakfast, we're on the assumption that's Hugo Weaving.
Unless it's one of the scenes that was done by James Purfoy.
That's like the conversation we always had about Robin Williams and Bicentennial Man.
Yeah.
Like, is it him? Like, is he actually in there physically?
I want to throw. I like living in hypothetical lands. I want to throw this question out to everybody, and including in the chat, if you guys want to put your answers to this. If V for Vendetta were made today, who would you cast as V? Who would you cast as Evie? And who would you cast as the Chancellor? Because I know who two of my three are.
I'd say Creed is an important character to throw into this too.
I mean, if we're trying to go on the sort of 1984 Brazil vibes, I think the Chancellor could be a very interesting Jonathan Pryce.
I had that thought too. That was no kidding.
If we're trying to do symbolism for like what people may connect with, now I'm trying to.
My pick for Evie and V was Benedict Cumberbatch as V and Florence Pugh as Evie.
Very Marvel.
Not intentionally. I can't help it that 90% of the acting roster is in the MCU. I can't control that.
In mind that I would really like to see take on this role, and I think it'd be really interesting to see his face on a giant screen. I want Ewan McGregor.
I could see that. He'd probably have to get a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
Makeup does wonders.
Yeah, he can disappear under some makeup.
Yes, he can.
The only thing that makes me sad about thinking of casting it now is I know somebody out there would replace like Stephen Fry with James Corden, and that would just break my heart.
I just want Millie Bobby Brown because I want her to do something where she's actually being English other than Enola Holmes. Because like when
She's
people are
already done
going,
the
oh,
shape.
she's putting on a great British accent for that because she's American, right? Right? Right?
I mean, Millie Bobby Brown's already done the shaved head. She's halfway there.
Exactly. We have precedents.
I think somebody else that would make a good Chancellor would be Jeffrey Rush.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Plus, I just want to see Jeffrey Rush doing the comedy bit.
Bringing another Australian into the mix.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're looking for somebody younger because of Price being older, maybe just as a sort of like nod to the thick of it, Peter Capaldi is the sort of Chancellor.
Oh, he'd have the yelling scenes down, that's for sure.
Yeah.
He was the thinker in the Suicide Squad. You've probably seen him in other things.
Probably just not.
I'm trying to think of what you would have seen.
Yeah.
Paddington.
Yeah.
Okay.
The racist neighbour.
I
don't want these bears here. Get them out of our country.
What about Melina?
Yeah.
I can see Alfred Molina as Creedy.
Yeah. It's surprising how many people are actually fitting.
Yeah.
Like, it was almost like, oh man, this might be tough. It'll be hard. But it's like, a lot of these people wouldn't be bad choices. Did you have anything else? I still haven't talked about Valerie yet.
I have 2 more questions in chat. As I think Ashley dipped out again. If V were to do karaoke, what song would he sing?
Song has a lot of V's in it.
Oh, I didn't even think about the V's. I was just thinking it's the end of the world as we know it. Because I just want to hear V and his voice go 6 o'clock TV hour. Like,
I was gonna say Sunday Bloody Sunday by U2.
That's a good one too.
I thought you were gonna say "fuck the world."
I thought about it.
I mean, if he only could, he'd set the world on fire.
He did a little bit.
Singing F the world, yeah, I'd like that. Jared Harris is the Chancellor, says Jersey.
That's good. Nice. That's really good. I don't know that could be topped.
Jersey, you want to get...
Jersey.
Yeah, this is the fun part of the show where we have what we call dead air because there's nothing to talk about because we're done with that.
I'm just trying to think of songs that have a lot of V words in them.
Or would he just pick a song and then just change the words out for V words?
That'd be interesting.
I mean, he is a poet.
Actually, you want to go that route, you'd have him just sing something from Hamilton.
I mean, with the way he was rattling off his V's, he probably wouldn't have much of a problem with guns and jets. He clearly has a hold of the English language.
Man, I bet V's an early Adam Sandler fan because of all the girlfriends with V's in their names.
Yeah.
Like, I just see V, like, sitting there, like, eating popcorn, and they say, like, Veronica Vaughn, and he's like, nice.
What a great transition into the next movie club, by the way.
That's a shoot. And I will not apologize for that being a pick that we're bringing into July 11th Popcast Movie Club episode 7.
I mean, I guess I can go into this real quick if we have nothing else to go into. I think what I really love a lot about the Vower, not just because of how much of an emotional peak the letter scene by itself is,
Yes.
but when I was talking about it being emotional whiplash, that's not just in the confines of the movie. That's in the it happens and it's this huge emotional moment, and then we realize that she's not actually in captivity. It's just the whole V setup, and so then there's the jarring thing of, oh, was that whole thing fake? And we think that for a little bit, and then it's emotional. It hits you emotionally all over again when you realize it wasn't fake. And he's like got the movie poster and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the whole roller coaster that is the Valerie subplot going on, and the fact that how much of like a starting point she was for literally the whole thing, because it's how you can almost see this movie and V's plot in two ways, where it's either it's all just revenge for his like fellow prisoners and patients, and then it's just the cherry on top that he gets to do this widespread sort of act of vengeance, or the other way around, where it's like the whole plan is the widespread act of vengeance, and the cherry on top is avenging his fellow prisoners / patients. So that's all I really need to say about that. So.
Would you classify V for Vendetta as a revenge movie?
Certainly. Just on a very grand scale.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the title.
I don't know. It's weird to think about it like this, but V for Vendetta gives me like the end when everybody's wearing the Guy Fawkes masks and they're all like, I guess you would say peacefully protesting. For the most part, as much as they can.
They are.
I mean, they don't throw hands.
So they are just standing there.
Yeah, they're just standing there.
They're not the ones blowing shit up. That's just him.
Right.
And Evie to an extent.
You know, thinking about that scene too, that further answers the who has more of a following between the Riddler and V, because V had like streets and streets of people, and the Riddler had like 12 dudes that came out.
Yeah.
Like V's people are definitely more dedicated to the cause.
12 dudes that quite literally could live in the same basement.
They probably do.
They all play like they're the ones that have the light up keyboards and like play all the FPSs and everything like that, and call each other like names and stuff like that.
Oh, going back to when Ashley was talking about South Park, they're definitely airsoft guys. Definitely, they're an airsoft crew.
As someone that's been shot with airsoft guns before, absolutely.
I mean, let's be fair. The climax of the Batman is Batman just taking out a bunch of marks.
Yeah. The climax of the Batman is basically the same as Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
I do like the fact, though, that if we believe the canon of V for Vendetta, 10,000 people died in that final scene. Because if they're all standing on Westminster Bridge, which is right next to the Houses of Parliament and Big Ben and St. Stephen's Tower, all that wreckage is going to fall on them.
True.
A lot of people die.
Okay, so where does the symbolic imagery begin and end during the climax? Because we go really seamlessly into seeing the dead people.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
I mean, God damn it, I'm making another Batman reference. In the words of the Joker, unfortunately, you can't make an omelet without breaking some egg.
Because the point. This is the thing where you have to embrace it as a movie now, where it's like it's just a beautiful climax. Whatever happened after that faded to black. Because James McTeague, right? Was the Raven the next thing he did after this?
No, Ninja Assassin.
Oh shit! I forgot about that. I completely forgot that existed. The only thing I know is that his filmography has been very disappointing, following V for Vendetta.
Well, I'll make a reference. It's not Batman here. seeing all the dead people in the streets, if Marvel or if Captain America Civil War taught me anything, after that scene, Alfred Woodard went around angry looking for someone to blame.
Yeah, he
And
did.
then got the whole other storyline
Yeah.
that's still going today.
McTee did Ninja Assassin, Raven, Survivor, which was that what felt like straight to video, but somehow got a release, certainly over here, with Mila
that the one
Jovovich and Pierce Brosnan and Robert
Brosnan,
Forster
yeah.
and Angela Bassett, and then his last film was Gabrielle Union's Breaking In.
That was him. I saw that in a theater. I didn't even know that was him.
Aside from that, really, he just did a little bit of Sense8, season 2 of Marco Polo.
Sense8 makes sense of the Wachowski connection.
And then a series called Messiah from it released on January the 1st, 2020. But other than that, McTeague's just basically doing a lot of production work, including with Lana on Resurrections last year.
Pierce Brosnan would have made a good V.
Oh, even 2005, he would have been a good choice.
That's what I'm thinking, more of that time frame.
Yeah.
Now I think he'd be.
It's like in his Matador days.
Yeah, he definitely has like the soothing voice for it.
Yeah. With just that, well, I don't know if it's his voice or just the characters he's played, but I feel like there'd be a bit more of a hint of smugness with him. Is that a Brosnan? Is that a?
I don't know. Is
character
Stewie Dunmire smug?
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit.
I mean, did he really deserve to run by fruiting?
He did well. Probably not. Where did we
Owen
end
just
up?
nodded, so you know we know Owen's view on it. I'm just trying to think if that's the biggest thing Stephen Fry's done, like apart from his television sort of stuff and quiz show stuff. I can't think of
I feel like it would be, because outside, maybe it's just because I'm American, I don't know, but outside of his TV stuff, V For Vendetta is really the only thing I think of when I think of Stephen Fry.
He was in Guy Ritchie's second Holmes movie.
Yeah, it was
Right?
Minecraft.
I think it's been a while since
Yeah,
I've seen
right.
that.
And of course he was also the mayor of the town that got burned by Smaug as well in the Hobbit films.
Oh.
Oh.
You know, that considering how many other characters are in that, you know, like Fry is sort of like what probably third or fourth billing to some extent, because it's and John Hurt.
Actually think we're done. We're going to finish the show in under 2 hours.
But all in all, as I said in sort of my pitch for this, I think it's the best thing the Wachowskis have done that they didn't direct.
Yes.
I'm trying to think. I don't think they did too much dabbling in sort of like writing and letting other people do the project. And I appreciate as well that although it's the Wachowskis writing, McTeague's sort of tried to make it his own sort of vision with the sort of stuff. Obviously, there's going to be influences of the Matrix there because the collaboration.
It's like McTeague has his own vision, but you can also it's really easy to imagine what it would look like if the Wachowskis directed it.
Yeah, certainly.
I think what helps it too is it's one of those movies where it's not set in a certain period, and with what goes on, anytime something like that starts to happen, you can always bring this back and it's a talking point again. I think it's a movie that is only going to become more impactful with time.
Yeah, because you could call that playing it safe, but it also is it's gonna lead to its immortality.
Yeah. By not giving it a time, you've definitely made it timeless.
Literally.
Yeah. And I think where it's so story driven too, most of that's going to hold up. Like a lot of movies, like the action falls off after a while, effects get better, people get better at what they do. But with a movie like this that's so story driven, the story's what's going to win out. The action's fun, it's cool, it's what brought us here, but the story's what's going to make it a relevant film for years and years and years.
That's kind of what I was saying, where it was like it was advertised as an action movie, and if you had to give it a genre, it would probably be that. But when you mention it, the first thing people are going to talk about is its relevancy to whatever's happening.
Mm-hmm. Which is just the story, not necessarily the action.
Yeah.
It probably helps that it's set in Britain, that it does feel sort of more like not a spy thing, but it's that sort of drama mixed with action. Sort of like, Ipcress File or anything like that from back in the day was. When it wasn't, it was more about the thinking and the ideas rather than the actual actions.
I think on that note, that's going to be the show for tonight. So yeah, I mean that was a fun show. I'm very glad we got to pick V for Vendetta. The 10th of July, we'll be back here for our regularly scheduled Sunday night, 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, time to be announced, for our Q&A and our Google Hangout. And coming to Popcast Movie Club Episode 7, Airheads. I'm super excited to talk about this comedy that not enough people have watched, and I have introduced so many people to throughout the years. And I really hope that you give it a shot, Brian. I really do. And I believe it was said last night that it's available right now on HBO Max?
Yes.
Yeah, that's our show. Once again, I want to thank Chris for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Sorry about all the tangents.
I will say right now that Chris looks like he's going to become a regular contributor on the show. So much so that I think I can say this right now without giving anything away. Next time we join us live, July 11th, you're going to get to pick between the three that is not me on this channel to determine what our Popcast Movie Club pick will be for the end of July. So AJ will have one as always. Ashley will have one as always. And unless something changes, Chris will make his official first pick for Popcast Movie Club up for consideration.
Yesterday, I was very confident that I would know what his was, but it turns out I might not.
No, I have about 5 that I'm deciding between right now.
Oh, I had a lot more than that, and I ended up choosing Moving Violations. So, I mean, good luck with your first pick, good sir. Ashley also can be found at Ash's My Name UK on Twitter, as well as more snack stashes and content from Ashley coming in the near future. AJ, of course, as always, just like Keith Richards, cannot be killed by conventional weapons and cannot be found on any sort of social media. I like to flip it around every once in a while. If you have any questions for him, feel free to drop them here. A live chat. If you don't want to chime into the live chat, that's fine. No worries. We're glad to have you aboard anyway, and feel free to leave a comment on any of the videos, and we'll make sure that gets back to him. I can be found on Twitter at Sir Owen Disney. Still the brand, even though I only go by Owen now. I'm still a Sir. Everyone knows it. And at the end of the day, lots of sip and snacks are coming. Lots of Voices of Liberty content is coming. It is July 4th very soon after all. So yeah, big time Voices content coming soon. And right before Movie Club is done, at the end of the month, I'll have seen Water Parks again live. So I'll be able to talk about that and going to the Sad Summer Fest in Orlando Amphitheater. So that should be super cool. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be your show, everyone. Until next time, everyone, have the best day ever. Stream Funeral Grey. Be very nice. Be very evil. And that's all we got to say about that.